In order to look at the Alt-V macro, we need to open up the PATS document, or the global macro that I talked about last time, which is in the startup directory. So we need to go to My Computer, C, Drive, Documents and Settings, My Name, so you need to click your name, Application Data, Microsoft, Word, Startup, and open the document that either says PATS or PATS BA or PATSAC, whatever is in that directory. Open it up. It's the same. It's pretty much the same file, and is for this purpose anyway. So I'm going to open it. Click Open, and you'll see we'll get the blank document. Now let's just click back to the other document that we were working on, but that'll be on in the background. And let's go back to the Visual Basic screen, and this time go to Templates, Project, PATS, or whatever the version of PATS that you have. Go to Module 1, and then we need to go to the Alt-V macro, so you can just search for it like that, get down to it. Control F does the search just like it does in Word. Also, you can use the little button up here. Now what you want to do is, you've been looking at this Visual Basic screen in full mode. Let's go click right, make it small, because I want you to be able to see the document, and I want you to be able to see the document plus the macro. But before that, what I want to do is go to, well, maybe we can do it this way. If you go to the macro that's above Alt-V, which is Get N Adult, that's going to bring the adult index up. So let's just do that. Run that. Run that. We'll do that instead of using the menu. And to do that, so it's step by step, and this is the technique you use to debug a program too. You press F8. And if you just then hit F8, you'll see the yellow arrow. It highlights the command. And so right now it's going to say, let's make this document that we're working on in just a second. Oops, did the wrong thing here. I have to get out of the macro that I started because I wanted to make sure we were on. Oh, we're on this document anyway. Okay. So you'll see it says set doc1 equals active document. So that means that this document that we're on, which would be your decision, would be the active document. And then if we press F8 again, it's changing the directory that is going to look for files to the info directory. We go again, and this next command is going to open up the index, the adult index. And you'll see that's exactly what happened. Except, I don't know why I got this error message. But anyway, you can click off. And now it's going to make, the final command in this is going to make, if I press F8 again, it's going to make this next command, home unit equals word story. That means it goes, that's just the way to say to go to the top, send the cursor to the top of the document. And then if I want to open the document, or the next thing I want to do is set doc2 equals active document. Now it's going to make this document doc2 for purposes of the system. And that'll be important, as you see in a minute. Now let's go. So I press that, and we're done with the sub. So if we go run here to the run and reset, and then go to the Alt-V macro. Before we run Alt-V, what it needs to do is we need to go back to the adult programs index and put our cursor over any of these index entries that we're going to want to use for inserting the parareg, such as right here. So I'll go back to the Alt-V macro on the Visual Basic screen, and again, just pressing F8. Let's watch what happens step by step. I actually have to the first command says if there's some kind of error, go to the label that's error handler. The next command says selection move up word paragraph count equals 1, and watch what happens after we do this. It basically is the technique to get the cursor to go over to where the number is that we're looking for. That is the number over here. This probably isn't illustrating that the best way I can because you're not seeing the entire text macro, but you can review this later because right now I'm going to go step by step. And what now is saying is if the document is the obsolete pararegs document, it needs to open that up, but otherwise go to bypass. So let's watch this. And now the next command is to give a variable name to the number that's on there. And I need to explain a little bit more of programming to understand this command. $$ is, let's see, let's go. I have to go back to this command. I'm going to make this full for a second. Have to go back to this command to explain it fully. It goes to these series of commands, this selection home key equals word line, selection move right equals word count 1, selection home key equals word line word extend $$ equals selection range. What happens with that series of commands, which we've already gone through, is that it went over to, and watch my cursor on the document, it went over to the beginning of the line, and then it selected the first three, or the first word as it moved right. It selected the first word, which is what happens to occur before the hyphen. So it selected 810. So $, I then said whatever selected, make the variable $. So $, equals 810. With this command, I'm now saying if $, starts with an S, and what I'm using there is a way of examining a string, and I'll talk about that in a minute. That's one other piece of programming that I need to explain to you. The next command, but for now we'll just let it go, just that this particular command says that if it's S, then disregard the S, is what this command says. And then the next command is to turn $X into the value of $. And basically what I'm doing here is changing the string, which $$ is, to a numeric variable. And you'll see in a second why I needed to do that. Because if I go down here, this command here is just basically saying don't show the user your screen flashing like crazy while this is happening. Then, as you remember, this $X is 810, right? Notice the change of the string to the numeric variable. $$ equals is 810 in quotes. XX is just 810. And the reason I needed to make it a number is I want to say if XX is between 531 and 540, then open this document. Well, it's not, so nothing's going to happen as a result of it, because X isn't between 531 and 540. But watch what happens when it does get to the affected number. So I'm just going to hit F8 consecutively here. And what's happening here is when it gets to the right document, it's going to open up the table of the pararegs that is applicable. Hasn't gotten there yet. It's probably toward the very, very bottom. It's coming up though. As a matter of fact, it's going to be right here. Once I hit F8 again, watch what happens to the document. We should see a new document open. No, not yet. Actually, it doesn't open yet. It just stores it into this variable called file name. And we'll keep going. And now it's going to, this command opens the file name. So after I hit F8 again, now we're going to see the parareg document itself open. And we get this error message again. I just got to click OK a couple times when you see that error message. You'll notice that we now have the parareg file, and you'll notice also that what has happened is that it will I'm going to put down that screen for a second. This is the way the pararegs are organized. In other words, this is the way Barry does the pararegs. He puts them in a table, and he has these various columns, one with the parareg number, and another column which has the text of each one. Okay, and I think we selected 810-3. So what's going to happen as this row continues, go back to it, and I press F8 again, it's going to select this table, and it's going to look for $C$. So we got to go back here to find out what we made $C$. $C$ is 810-3, and that was because we selected, the macro selected the range and turned that into a variable. So now it's going to look for 810-3 as this continues. Watch. It's first going to the top of the document, or the table, the second table in the document. That's why we said tables 2 select. Then it goes to the top of that table. Then it's going to select the first column. And then it's going to search for 810-3. These commands here just set up the search, and this command here executes the search. It's just what we do when we hit Control F. And sure enough, you see, look in the document, now it's found H10-3. If it doesn't find it, it tells it to go to a label where I say that the reg couldn't be found, but it did find it. So now watch this. I'll go Alt F8. It goes, this one sends the selection or the cursor to the end of the row. This command moves it then to the next cell over. This one then moves it to the next cell over there. These two commands make sure that the text is going to be in Arial 11, and then this command copies the text. This next command closes the document, and so now you can see we're back at the parareg index, but we don't want to be there. We want to be in our decision. So the next command tells us to activate doc1, which is our decision. And for some reason, perhaps because I was doing this, it didn't do it right. But so I'll just have to say what regularly does happen. It activates doc1, it pastes what we've just copied, and hits type paragraph a couple times, and that's how the parareg gets into the decision. Why it went to an error, it went to the error handler, and I don't know why that happened. Okay, so I'm going to stop the running of this macro by clicking reset. And I may not have explained it sufficiently. I did, just for the heck of it, I'll click paste. It does put that parareg in there, but the macro should have done it. It'll do it if you, as you know, if you just execute the macro. But that is an example of what can be done with some of these techniques that I've showed you. Now, just to illustrate what that one bit of programming that I didn't cover was, how to working with string variables. There are times you want to manipulate them, and in this case the code that was involved, let's go back to it, was just a second while I get the phone. Okay, back with you. What I wanted to show you was this a little bit about string variables. So we'll take that example, that bit of code that we're working with, and I've gone back to this practice code that we've been using, and I'm going to write it like this. This was the code. If left $$1 equals S, then $$ equals $$ len $$ -1. Now that sounds tough, I know, but it's not that complicated really. Let's say $$, based on our last example, was not 810-3, but S 810-3, and got to put quotes around it because it's a string. What I want, remember, we wanted it to look up the, in fact, I think we don't need the -3, we just need the S810. We wanted it to look up 810, so we wanted to change $$ to get rid of the S for purposes of searching for the right document to open up so that we could insert the parareg. And to do that, our goal was to change the value of $$ so it didn't have an S. So what we want to do is get rid of the S. Well, I do that by using the, in this case, both the left and the right commands, or statements, or I guess they're called statements. This is saying if the left part of $$, comma 1, is, that means one character. So if the left part of this string S810 first character happens to be an S, then we want $$ not to be S810, but we want it to be the right of $. The length of $, which is, and that's what len stands for, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 characters in $. We want it to be the length of it -1. So we want the characters -1 to the right. So out of 4 characters, the characters to the right would be 3 characters. So that's what's going to take out the S. And so $$ after this command runs will be 810. So to prove that, all we need to do is hit Alt-Shift-A. Oh, got to go back here. Selection, type text, $, and if I go back to the document that we've been working on, press Alt-Shift-A, you'll see it says 810. There's one other command associated with that same concept that we didn't need, which is the mid. There, we've talked about left, right. There's one more, mid. Let's put this up. And to illustrate that, $, equals mid $, that's the string we're talking about, to 2. What that command is saying is that $, will be the 2 characters in from the start, and then 2 in length of $. So we'll run this macro again. Let's do a selection type paragraph. Press Alt-Shift-A again, and actually it took the first 2 characters. So the way the syntax, I don't use this too often, but basically it takes the first 2 characters it started with the second character. That's what it's saying. Take a look at $, start with the second character and show me 2 characters. So it turns out to be 81. Okay? Sorry that I wasn't completely versed on that, but all we had to do is run the macro for me to explain how it actually functions. You don't really need the mid function or statement from running for many things that I do in this system, but as you can see, the left and right are used from time to time. So basically, that shows you how actually one of the more complicated macros works. Hopefully you can go through the code on your own and understand it, but it basically is the most important thing that we do, which is to insert pararegs into the decisions. That concludes this particular lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least found it educational. And we'll start next time with how the menu system works, which is, unfortunately, this isn't true programming. It's a little bit of something Word has developed in this latest version of Word, which has added a bit of complication. So it's a little bit complicated. You need a piece of software really to make it work, but it is something that you need to learn. So we'll cover that next time, and until then, we'll see you. Bye.